Hi, and it's October 13th, 2019, and this is episode 11 of Plane Savers Down Under. And today we're at the HARS Parkes Aviation Museum. If you remember, we have already visited HARS over at Shoalhaven Regional Airport. HARS has developed a satellite museum over here at Parkes out in western New South Wales, about 300 kilometres west of their site. And here is a lot of storage, aircraft being restored, aircraft being used for parts to keep aircraft flying, as well as just extra space. So let's go in and see what it's all about. Okay, here we are at Parkes. Thanks very much, Cole. We've got Cole here who's helped me a bit, and I thank him very much for that. Parkes also was a operational airfield. This is the next step up from what we saw at Tamora and Benalla. Here it's an operational training unit, and the aircraft here are Wirraways, Oxford, Spitfires, Boomerangs and Kittyhawks. In other words, the operational aircraft, not the training aircraft. Followed on by, you see there, the Photo Reconnaissance Squadron flying Wirraways and Mozzies, and then a maintenance unit. Over here was also other training, navigation with Ansons, wireless with DC-2s, Tigers, Wackets and Dragons, and then the Central Flying School, that's interesting, was here with Wirraway, Oxford, Boomerang, Kittyhawk and Beaufort. So that gives you a bit of a rundown on what Parkes was all about. It's this is the hangar. The aircraft here are all being restored to static condition, but as I said outside, some will actually become donor aircraft to keep the other aircraft flying over at the main Parkes facility over at Albion Park. Now we've got some interesting aircraft. I'm not going to waste time too much on the Wessex. We've already seen a number of these. You've heard me rave about how big and powerful and strong they are. Let's have a look at what else is here that's different to what we haven't seen before. Now we've seen an Avon, don't worry about that. Here's a Wright 18, 3350. Yeah, back to the old centrifugal, the Goblin, used in the Vampire. And here we are with a Westinghouse J34, which is the assisted jet engine for the Neptune. Now here's something we haven't seen before on our travels. We've got a Lockheed 12, the Electra Junior. There's the door, there's some other construction. We'll stick the old camera inside and have a look. The torch is on, though I don't know if it'll show much, but anyway, here is the inside of the Electra. There's not much down the control column. I can't get down that far, but there's not much to see there anyway. Some of the control instruments are there, but that's about all. But yeah, so that's something that we haven't seen in our travels before. Whoops, I fall over, which is not unusual. Let's see if I can get in here and maybe get a little bit better photograph of down through here into the cockpit. There we are, a little bit for you to see. Bit hard lighting, the windows are all glazed. But there you are, a Lockheed 12. The Electra Junior. Long way to go. There's obviously the rotor blades off the Wessex, but you've got to start somewhere. And over here, looks like maybe a Hudson. Let's see what we got in here. Very dark, unfortunately, but we're aviation enthusiasts, so we want to get as much for you as we can. Here we are with the cockpit and nose section of a Lockheed Neptune. Not a Hudson as I thought. It's a much, when you look at it, a much bigger aircraft than what the Hudson would be. And over here we have a Huey Cobra gunship. There's the cannon, rotary cannon, and the ammunition feed. Up here we can get into the cockpit for you. There's the gunner's cockpit, him being in front. So if you're on the receiving end, he's the guy that's going to be doing it to you. And here's the pilot's seat, the instruments. There's still instruments to be found, but it's not a bad start. There's a lot of stuff already here. That's your insides of your Huey Cobra gunship. And here's your stub wings for your rocket pods and bombs and all those nasties that give the bad people a bad day. And there's the mock-up of that Whimmerel we saw down at the Australian National Aviation Museum, where they've got the mock-up. Would have been a great aircraft, wouldn't it? Here's a Cessna 150E, probably one of the aircraft that most people are trained on these days. And over here we have a Harvard in the process of coming back together. And it's good to see Col over there working instead of gas bagging with me, because I'd gas bag all day about aeroplanes, and he's working hard. You can see, if you recall, over at the War Memorial, we saw a Wirraway in this basically very similar stripped down condition. You can see how similar a lot of the fittings and the structure is of the two aircraft. But as we saw yesterday, they are quite distinctly different, you know, in sound and squared wingtips and fins. They are different. So we'll wander outside and look at some of the aircraft that are being restored to static condition. Here we are, Neptune A90 8972. She's being slowly brought back to a good looks. There's the jet assisted takeoff pods. Yeah, you're a P2V7 Neptune. And of course the good old Caribou. This one still again is being restored to static condition, but ultimately will go as a, will act as a spares aircraft for the flying machine over at HARS at Wollongong. Same here. Here is the Orion rather. It's keeps the flying one intact. It'll be preserved in a flying, or rather a static condition, so that it looks good. There's those big paddle type props. There's the ubiquitous Qantas Stairs. I remember those coming out and actually being built. A company called Hastings Deering built them in Sydney for Qantas, to Qantas's design. Our sonar boys. Now, this one's got a long way to go. You can see it's in the colours of Butler Air Transport. Arthur Butler was one of the leaders of transport in Australia, or air transport. This was one of his aircraft, the Heron, and you can see it's obviously was a turbo Heron from the nacelles. His airline started off in the bush and grew to have airspeed ambassadors, Viscounts, DC-3s, and were eventually taken over by Ansett Airlines. There's a little bit of detail of Arthur Butler and the airlines. What he achieved was absolutely brilliant, and the takeover of Butler Air Transport by Ansett wasn't probably one of the greatest moments of Australian aviation. Here is the spare Convair. This one was operating in New Zealand as a cargo carrier. You can see there's no windows in it. She's been modified for that. And again, this will be gradually brought inside and restored to static display condition to make it look good. And will be the donor aircraft for the one over in HARS's main contract. Again, I'm not sure what engines these are, whether they're Allisons or not, but they've got similar bladed props. But yeah, there gives you an idea of a little satellite airfield, a little bit like Benalla. The old World War II hangar is still here. We've got a lot going on, a lot of people working here, all again volunteers, and it's great to see the work and effort they're putting in. You might be wondering why the name Warrawee is preceded by the letters RMA. Back in the days, RMA stood for Royal Mail Aircraft, and if you look at ships, you might have seen RMS before the name of a ship, which obviously stood for Royal Mail Ship. One thing I will show you with this Caribou, it's got its flaps down, and it's not often you get to see how this is done on the aircraft. They're usually retracted, but here's the size of them, the rear of the engine cowling. Part of the reason the Caribou had such fantastic stall capabilities. There you go, there's the flaps mechanism of the Caribou that basically allowed it to nearly walk onto an airstrip. Cole has just informed me that this is a different Neptune from the one outside and the ones down at HARS. This is a much later version, a 302? 302, while the ones outside are 272. So this is a much later version of the Neptune and first flew in 1951. Thanks very much, Cole, for that. Okay. So there we are, a fantastic little museum out here at Parkes, run by HARS. An ideal stopping off point if you're travelling from down the central western part of New South Wales, from Brizzy down to Melbourne, or from anywhere to anywhere. Call in here, have a look around. You might find you'll see something like I just did with the Lockheed 12 you've not seen before. I'd like to thank Cole very much for his assistance, and I think the enthusiasm of the guys here is self-evident. I hope you've enjoyed your visit to HARS at Parkes. Until next time.